Hello and welcome to Drama Recaps. Today, we will dive into the gritty, visceral world of the 2013 American crime drama film Out of the Furnace. Spoilers ahead. Our tale begins with the aggressive Harlan D. Grote, parked in a drive-in theater with his girlfriend. When she taunts him, Harlan violently lashes out, assaulting her. The incident attracts a Good Samaritan, who is brutally beaten by Harlan for intervening. Switch scenes to Russell Bays, a Pennsylvania steel mill worker. After work, Russell spots his younger brother Rodney's car on the road. Rodney is a gambling addict, and when Russell confronts him, he finds out Rodney owes money to a loan shark, John, who runs an underground tavern. Despite his frustration, Russell, as the responsible elder brother, doesn't reprimand Rodney harshly. The next morning we see Russell and his girlfriend Lena lying in bed. After, Russell visits his sick father, cared for by his uncle, Red Bays. He also learns Rodney is a soldier about to be deployed to Iraq. In the evening, Russell sits at the bar and watches TV. A bartender named Dan Dugan asks Russell how Rodney is doing. Russell says he is out of money again and will be back in a month. Later, Russell meets loan shark John to settle Rodney's debts, only to find the violent Harlan in John's room. Despite Harlan's hostility, Russell manages to give John his salary to cover Rodney's debt and promises to pay the rest later. After some drinks at John's tavern, Russell drunkenly drives home and ends up hitting a car with a mother and child, both of whom are killed. The accident lands Russell in jail for 4 years. His girlfriend Lena Taylor ceases to visit him, but his brother Rodney remains a constant presence. He has a confrontation with inmates at the prison, but the police manage to separate them. After his tour in Iraq, Rodney informs Russell of their father's demise, which leaves him shocked. Years later, upon his release from prison, Russell is picked up by Rodney. His first visit is to his parents' graves, after which he seeks Lena, only to find she has moved on with Wesley Barnes, the local police chief. Returning to his former job at the steel mill, Russell tries to resume his life while Rodney gets involved in illegal boxing matches. Initially, he's pushed to the brink, taking several blows. But a disparaging comment ignites a fire in Rodney. Overwhelmed by fury, he takes down his opponent with a punishing blow, emerging victorious. His participation in the unsanctioned fight was a desperate bid to clear his mounting debts to John. Rodney's unexpected win infuriates John, who'd wagered on his loss. He chastises Rodney for his lack of emotional control, suggesting that he should take up a job in the steel mill, like Russell. Rodney, bearing the physical scars of the fight, pays no heed to John's counsel. Back home, Russell is startled to see Rodney's battered state. Rodney retreats into silence, confining himself to his room. The following day, Russell finds discarded bandages in the bin, revealing Rodney's secret involvement in illegal boxing. Russell implores Rodney to quit the dangerous world of underground fighting and consider working at the metal foundry. The pay might be modest, but it would provide a safer livelihood. Rodney, however, rebuffs his brother's advice, expressing his disillusionment with life. He reveals the scars he carried from his time in Iraq, a haunting reminder of the war and its countless victims. He visits John at the tavern, insisting on fighting in another high-stakes match to pay off his debts. Reluctantly, John agrees and contacts Harlan, the brutal organizer of the illegal fights, to secure a spot for Rodney in an upcoming match. Elsewhere, Russell attempts to reconcile with Lena. However, she gently refuses, revealing her relationship with Wesley and her pregnancy. The encounter ends with a tearful farewell. Russell, carrying the burden of his past actions, visits the site of the tragic car accident. He leaves a wreath in a poignant gesture of remorse. Later, he visits his uncle, accepting an invitation for a hunting trip in the forest. Meanwhile, Rodney and John are on their way to meet Harlan, who dismisses Rodney based on his appearance. Infuriated by Harlan's disrespect, Rodney challenges him, but John manages to defuse the situation. Later, John instructs Rodney to lose the upcoming fight, a condition stipulated by Harlan. Rodney, still seething at Harlan's slight, is torn about his course of action. On the day of the fight, Rodney attacks with a ferocity that takes his opponent by surprise. When he gains the upper hand, John intervenes, reminding him to lose. Reluctantly, Rodney lets his opponent land the winning blows. Even after victory is clear, the opponent continues his assault on Rodney, prompting John to step in. After the fight, Harlan warns John that their association is over. Despite the ominous threat, John is relieved to be free of Harlan. However, his relief is short-lived when Harlan and his gang intercept their car. During the ensuing confrontation, Harlan shoots John, and his men abduct Rodney. Back from his hunting trip, Russell finds a letter from Rodney in his room. Rodney apologizes for disregarding Russell's advice and promises that the fight would be his last. Rodney pledges to join Russell in the steel mill once this ordeal is over. Meanwhile, Rodney suffers brutal torture at the hands of Harlan's men. When Harlan arrives and asks Rodney to look him in the face, Rodney responds by calling Harlan a coward. Enraged, Harlan shoots Rodney and orders his men to dispose of the body in the forest. The next day, Wesley visits Russell. At first, Russell assumes Wesley is there because of Lena, but he is there to deliver devastating news of Rodney's death. At the police station, Russell is played a voice recording captured during John's final moments, inadvertently recorded on his bartender's voicemail. However, the police are still struggling to find Rodney. Although the police interview numerous people in connection with Rodney's death, everyone remains tight-lipped. Russell is infuriated by the lack of progress and lambasts Wesley and the police for their inefficiency. In search of leads, Russell and his uncle visit John's office to find Harlan's address. A bartender informs them he doesn't know Harlan's address, but he does know the location of the fights. Investigating further, Russell learns about the outstanding debt between John and Harlan, supposed to be settled through a fight. Russell and his uncle rush to the location provided by the bartender. To gain information, Russell pretends to be a customer for Harlan's men. Initially suspicious, they eventually guide him to Harlan's headquarters. The area, however, is crowded, and Harlan is nowhere to be found. A local policeman warns Russell that the locals are known for dispensing their own justice and advises him to leave the area. Despite his determination, Russell and his uncle are forced to leave to avoid arrest. Days later, Wesley delivers more devastating news: Rodney's body has been found. Russell is devastated but tries to maintain his composure. Wesley and Lena visit him that evening to offer condolences. Lena urges Russell to leave the investigation to the police. Despite his deep-rooted anger, Russell tries to resume a normal life. When he learns that Harlan's house has been raided but the man's fate remains uncertain, Russell decides to take action himself. He breaks into John's office, finds Harlan's number, and arranges a meeting under the guise of settling John's debt. That evening, Harlan arrives at the pub, accompanied by a henchman. When he doesn't find the person he was expecting, he shoots the bartender in frustration. Meanwhile, Russell manages to eliminate Harlan's guard and prepares to confront him. As Harlan tries to escape, his car fails to start, a result of sabotage. Harlan is forced to hide in an abandoned factory. Russell tracks him down, and the two men face off. Russell shoots Harlan in the leg, then orders him to walk into the woods. As Wesley arrives and pleads with Russell to spare Harlan's life, Russell shoots Harlan in the back, ending his life. In the aftermath, Russell isn't imprisoned due to Wesley's intervention and defense, allowing him to walk free.